How y'all doing? I feel like I can say y'all here. I think that's a, look, it is. So I got to typing in the coordinates of the GPS, and I went down Murphy, what road was it? Murphy Mill. That's a good road right there, which I hail from Chesapeake, so it's not too far from there. But I appreciate you all giving me the opportunity. Faculty, parents, siblings, and graduates, thank you for giving me this honor. I promise you that I will not be too long. I also realize I stand in between you all having some really good times tonight. And cheers to the people in the comfy seats. You guys rock. So I appreciate y'all. So real quick, I love to entertain and I love for people to be involved. So real quick, what we're going to do, graduates, I need you to do me a favor and everybody else here. Can you just look at your neighbor and give them a high five for me, please? All right, look at your other neighbor and say, sorry, you were second choice. So sometimes you never know if that's going to work. So I appreciate you all. It's funny, but it's true. You're like, I'm so sorry. Graduates and Isle of Wight Academy, I appreciate this. I know there's a couple of familiar faces in the audience, and if you had ever met me, I think the D'Estacios is right down there. Hold your breath. No, I'm just kidding. The D'Estacios have known me for a long time, and I probably would have been voted less likely to be standing here right now. It's not because of the school system. It's not because I was some dumb kid. I truly struggled through school. And it was, for the fact of the matter, like being exposed to trauma at a young age, which you heard a little bit of my bio. I'm a childhood cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with a very rare form of liver cancer when I was 3. They gave my parents a 10% survival rate that I would even be standing here today. So I underwent chemotherapy, radiation, and they ended up taking out close to 3/4 of my liver. And so I've been cancer-free for about 34 years, so you guys can kind of do the math and see how old I am. Thank you. And so with that, you would think that's enough to try to change the world. But that's not where the story stopped. And just like most of you all graduates, class of 2024, yes, you're turning a page today, but this is the catalyst. This is the beginning for you all. And so I also lost 2 first cousins to this horrible disease. I hate everything about cancer, but I love everything about the community to what I've been introduced to. So with all that being said, went through high school. My first cousin that passed away, she lost the battle at 5. And then Shannon, at 17, the leukemia came back and ended up taking her with a vengeance. And she ended up passing away. So there was 3 of us. There was 2 of us. And then there's just this guy. So with all that, the day that we laid Shannon to rest, I made a commitment. And I had just graduated from high school. I was on my way home from my freshman year of college. And my mom called me and told me Shannon had passed. I made a commitment right there the day that we laid Shannon to rest that I was going to work hard, party hard, and play hard. And that's what I did. I was really good at the playing and the partying. And then the working hard, what I did, I started a lawn care company, sold that, started a construction company. I'm a born entrepreneur. At 4th grade, I was selling blow pops and candy out of my backpack. It was in my blood, man. I realized you could go to a store and then sell it for more, right? So that's an entrepreneur through and through. But in 2008, I was in the construction business and I ended up losing everything in 2008. And so the point of the story is that I had chased everything that the world said that I should have. And when I lost everything that the world said I should have, they were nowhere to be found. So I did what any responsible businessman would do, is I moved to Costa Rica. I drained my bank account and said, I'm out. I called my attorneys. I was like, don't indict me, please. I didn't even know what the word indictment meant. But I was like, hey, I'm coming back. I just got to figure some stuff out. So while I was in Costa Rica, did some surfing, big time surfer, been able to travel and surf all over the world. And while I was in Costa Rica, it was about 3 weeks into the journey, and I had never felt so alone in my life. I was at Roc and J Surf Camp. If anybody ever goes there, I was in a hammock, one of the most beautiful places in the world, but I had never felt so alone in my entire life. In that moment, because I'd lost everything, in that moment, I got on my knees and I was just bawling. I was like the ugly cry. And I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know why. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where I was going, and I did not know what I believed. And I honestly felt that God made a mistake keeping me instead of Shannon. I'd never felt this way before, but in that moment, I was still broke. I had no money. But in that moment, something started to heal. I was no longer broke, or I was still broke, but I wasn't broken. And I wrote down a word, hope, on a piece of paper. And what that meant to me is that did not change the world. That did not change it. It was nothing but a sheet of paper and a word. Ended up running out of money. My mommy and daddy had to bring me back home. And then from that moment, I was able to throw a fundraiser for CHKD. Raised about $7,500, and I was able to present one of those really big checks. Have you seen those? Like, I wanted a huge check. The lady told me it was too big, wouldn't fit in the elevator, but I didn't care. Had to end up folding it. Just a whole disaster side of it. But while I was standing there waiting to give the check to the hospital, a kid that was diagnosed with cancer, 3 years old, bald as a cue ball, stopped right in front of me and asked me what I was doing. And then the mama bear stopped as well. And in that moment, and graduates 2024, I want you to hear me, that moments create the memories, and then also the moments create the movement. You got to own the moment. And your moment right now, as you walk across this stage, this is a moment that will create the memory, but it will also produce the movement for where you're going. And that mom, I told the story in a lot more detail than what I had just shared with you all. And she started to cry. I was like, oh, crap. She's like, let me go get my husband. I'm like, no, don't go get your husband. She went and got her husband, said the same thing. He began to cry. And he said something that changed my world, changed my life forever. And she said that you give me and my husband hope that my son will be in your seat one day. Everything changed in a matter of a moment. And I'm telling you this story, not that everyone has to have a drastic tragedy or a trauma, but everyone has some sort of pain that can point to a purpose. And so through that, when I left the local hospital at CHKD right here in Norfolk, I knew what I was put here on this earth to do, is to provide hope for every single child fighting pediatric cancer. And that's what we've been doing for the last 15 years. I had no fundraising. Someone called me a philanthropist, and I kind of jumped at him. I'm like, what'd you call me? Like, anything with an ist on the end of it cannot be good. And so they're like, no, calm down, dude. Like, it's a good thing. You wanna help people. I'm like, oh, okay, good. All of that has led me to this moment. We sold Krispy Kreme donuts for our very first fundraiser. I was completely broke. I went to my dad, and I had job offers at the railroad, at the shipyard, all of that stuff. And I went to my dad. I was like, I think I'm gonna start a nonprofit. He's like, no. He's like, why? He's like, can't you just get a normal job? I'm like, no, I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So we sold donuts. We built our first play set. And fast forward 15 years later, Roc Solid Foundation is a multi-million-dollar-a-year organization loving and serving kids all throughout the country with our eyes marked on a prize. And the prize, what we're aiming at, action without aim is exhausting. But what we're aiming at is 16,000 families a year. And this message is not an advertisement for Roc Solid Foundation. This message, what I've been thinking about and praying about, and just honestly, what it is that, I don't really remember what was said at my high school graduation. I was like, I'm gonna come up here, I can just say blah, 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 and then you would be like, all right, that guy was pretty cool. The fact of the matter is, this is the real deal. This is the next thing for you all. And through 15 years, what I've realized is that there's one common thing that has been with me really since I was born. So even for you all, since the day you were born, there was fear with your parents, not fear in a bad way. Not all fear is bad, but there was fear. You know they let you come home with a child, right? You have a child, parents, you know what I'm talking about. They let you come home with a child, no manual. There's fear there. When you learn to walk, fear that you bumped your head. Now, fast forward, fear of graduation, which is a good thing. Parents, I promise you I'm going somewhere with this. That fear, not all fear is bad. But what if there was a class, 2024, that could learn how to drop fear long enough to take action? And so what I mean by that is that fear will be a constant. Fear is mandatory in the life. In your life, fear will always be there. But those that succeed in life learn to drop the F-bomb long enough to take action. And I'm not talking about the 4-letter word F-bomb. I'm talking about fear. Those that succeed in life learn to drop the F-bomb long enough to take action. And so through the ups and downs of Roc Solid Foundation, I truly believe that we're all destined to walk through some sort of pain that points to a purpose. And I've heard fear described this way. It's from Mike Tyson's boxing coach. Anybody heard of Mike Tyson? One of my favorite quotes with Mike Tyson is that everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. Yes. Somebody like, this is awkward. Just kidding. This is what his boxing coach said. Fear is like fire. If you lose control over it, it will kill you. If you learn to contain it, it can work for you. Now, like I said, not all fear is bad. I'm scared to death of snakes. Anybody scared to death of snakes? I don't care if it's a stick that looks like a snake. There's fear there. It should be a dead stick because snakes freak me out. And as I'm thinking about what to say, and my hope is that you can remember something that I say, it reminded me of when I first started Roc Solid Foundation, there's a story of the wise mule. Has anybody ever heard the story of the wise mule? Now you're going to hear something. So there's this wise mule that was on a farm, and one day it was walking through the farm, and then it fell into the well. From that, as the mule fell into the well, this was a mentor of mine that told me this story. As the mule fell into the well, it started to freak out, and it panicked. The farmer came looking for the mule and could not find the mule. Finally, it found the mule in the well. There was no way to get the mule out. And then, so for some reason, this is not my story, this is a tale. For some reason, the farmer realized that he couldn't save the mule, so he started to throw dirt in to fill in the well that would eventually kill the mule. And so the mule is down at the bottom of the well, and with every shovel, with every piece of dirt that fell on the mule, it started to freak out more and more and more. And then finally, the mule was able to disengage, to drop fear long enough, and it had an idea. As the dirt hit the mule's back, it began to shake off the dirt. With every shovel in, every shake off, the mule began to stand onto the dirt. And then eventually the farmer realized what was happening, so he shoveled in and he shook it off. I think Taylor Swift, she's a deep theologian. Has anybody ever heard of Taylor Swift? I invited her to come, she was busy. So, shake it off. With every shovel, every throw, shake it off. And eventually, the mule kept standing on top of the dirt, and the mule was able to exit the well and had a brand new life. Now, the moral of the story is you're going to get hit with you fill in the blank. But those that succeed in life learn to shake it off. And those that succeed in life learn to drop the F-bomb. Like, he giggled. He's like, who is it? F-bomb in the most positive way. Parents, great job. I know some of you have held your breath for a long time. All the nervous laughter in the room. Staff, faculty, great job. Well done. 44, right? 44 this year. Graduates, 2024. Well done. See, the scenario of dropping the F-bomb. So you're like, okay, that sounds great. Some mule fell in a well, he shook it off. So how do you drop the F-bomb? And if you don't remember anything that I say, this is what I call the walking stick of life. And it's 3 questions. And these 3 questions can help you when you're climbing the mountain and when you're coming down the mountain, or when you're in the valley and you don't know what to do. Or if you find yourself on your knees after losing a construction company and you find yourself on your knees in Costa Rica. These 3 questions, if you can identify these and remember these and lean on these, I promise you it will help you drop fear. The first question is, who am I? You've been told by a lot of people growing up who you are or who you're supposed to be. This question has to do with identity. So as you exit this place and you go into college, you go into work, a lot of people are going to be telling you who you are, but you need to figure that out. Who am I? And I want you to hear me. Who you are is more important than what you'll ever do. Next question, what do I believe? These beliefs will shape your values. We are inundated day and day with Instagram, social media, TikTok, you name it, of a bunch of people telling you what you should believe. And as you go into the future, there's going to be a lot more racket out there. But you have to decide what you believe. Don't let someone else decide it for you. And the last question is, where am I going? And that has to do with purpose. What is your purpose? See, purpose is not some mystical thing. It's not some unicorn. It's not a rainbow. Purpose is a direction. So what is your purpose? And it's crazy how history tends to repeat itself. In 2020, had anybody heard of the coronavirus that entered into this world? In 2020, Roc Solid Foundation was doing pretty well. The first 5 years we had to survive. The first 10 years we had to survive, and guess what? 15 years we're still trying to figure it out. But in 2020, there's 6 miles from my office to my home. I get a phone call, and we lost about $350,000 in sponsorship in one day. I think it was the day that the NBA closed down. And so I had to pull over across the street from my house, and I was so sick I threw up. And I was scared to death. And all the emotions of me losing everything in 2008 started rushing back in. And so my wife, which is absolutely amazing, I go home, we put the kids to bed, I go to sleep, and I end up waking up and I hit my knees in prayer. And I had no idea what to do. And I was scared to death that I was going to let a lot of people down. I was fearful that I was going to lose absolutely everything. So I got on my knees. My wife got on her knees, started rubbing my back, and we began to pray. And she reminded me of the 3 questions. Because it's not a matter if fear hits you square in the face. It's what are you going to do with it, and how are you going to shake it off? And as I began to rise, knowing who I am, I'm Eric Newman, follower of Jesus. I'm a leader. And I was put here on this earth for a moment such as this. What do I believe? I believe that I was destined to love and serve every single child fighting pediatric cancer. And where am I going? I'm going to make it happen. And see, I was able to lean on that long enough to go talk to my staff and to my team. And we were able to actually grow and love and serve more families because I was able to lean on the walking stick of life. And so for you, as you migrate, as you navigate through these next couple of years, it is going to be absolutely amazing. And you're going to have a lot of challenges. And I just encourage you to know who you are, know what you believe, and know where you're going. Thank you so much.